Live everywhere else. Hello, everywhere else. Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. My arm is up on the left because my tripod thingy bob piece broke. And so now, hey, Julie. So now I have to hold my phone up where I'm streaming on Instagram. So I'm sorry for the long arm. ah. If this is the first time that you're catching one of my lives, my name is Nicole M. Louis. I'm the social worker strategy mentor, and I absolutely love helping social workers start and scale their very own independent practice so that they can have more time, money, and just do things on their terms, basically. So that's a little about me. I would love for you to engage with me. This is going to be a quick little chat about something that I received via DM to sign a petition. And so I want your thoughts and I want your comments on this. So if you're watching this on a replay, hashtag replay, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, what you think about it. And yeah, and if you're watching this live with me, please do comment and share your views as well. So you know that I'm a social worker, obviously, right? My background's in child protection. So frontline child protection, I did that for over 15 years. And I did it across 12 local authorities in the UK. And if you see my eyes going up, it's because I'm looking at Instagram. I'm looking at lovely Julie, who's with us here on Instagram. And if I'm looking down, I'm looking at everyone else who might be joining from the various places. But yes, I kind of done frontline across 12 local authorities in the UK, right? And so I know the pressures, I know the stresses, I know what it's like to have to juggle, manage different caseloads, different timescales, managing different professionals in different industries, coordinating things, having to keep myself safe, having the pressure and the responsibility of having children that are on my caseload safe also. I think I had up to the most that I've ever had is 50 something children on my caseload, which in comparison to some of the things that I hear and even the colleagues that I've had, sorry, Instagram, that isn't even that bad. So yeah, I know the pressures, I know what it's like. And I guess I wanted to talk about this thing that I had WhatsApp to me about a petition to sign for social workers to be wearing body cams when they go on home visits like police officers. And I don't know how I felt about it. I don't know how I felt about it when I first heard it. It was like, oh, like the police. And I think immediately one would spring to, okay, that's kind of a good idea. There's an element of safety. Your safety is probably more improved as a social worker because we know social workers get killed. I don't think it's that often, but it happens in terms of safety. I can recall I've been attacked by somebody during a home visit. And so, there are risks to what we do, right? And we deal with people, we go into people's homes, we don't know how they're going to be, we don't know how they're going to receive us. Sometimes we can get an idea based on whether they want us involved or not. But, there's a difference between somebody being disgruntled, not really wanting your input, um, and then somebody who's actually willing to act upon that, right? They're two different things, they're worlds apart. So I guess the cam would make it safe for you. It would make it you'd feel safe as a social worker. Oh, I'm sorry. Everywhere else. Oh, look, my little setup is falling apart. This is the joys when your thingy breaks. Anyway, so yeah, I think initially you might feel quite safe in that, right? As a social worker, I know that I would, if I was still on front line, I'd probably feel quite safe having a body cam. I'm making an assumption. I mean, I don't know if it's hooked up to the police or where that data goes. But yeah, I think there's an element of safety, and I think even for those on the receiving end, families, they might feel a bit safer knowing that there's some evidence of the things that social workers are saying, what they're offering, what they're doing. and the quality of practice. I know I've been on home visits, joint home visits with social workers, sometimes in senior positions, and I haven't thought much of their practice. They haven't always been very respectful or empathetic, or yeah, they're just kind of lacking in some ways. And I think if I were a family, I'd feel a bit of a way. Um, so I think it can serve a great purpose when you look at it from that aspect. But then I suddenly thought, um, where does the data go? Where is that data stored? Who is privy to that data? Obviously, when we're visiting families, we're talking about very personal things. If we're doing direct work, I know when I used to do direct work, family members are sharing some of their darkest things that they've experienced, and areas of their life that they really don't want to talk about. And they're talking about it reluctantly sometimes in the first place. And I just think then if you're wearing a body cam, like what privacy is there? It's kind of intrusive. And I think if I were them, I wouldn't want that. Like I would be clammed up. I would not be saying a word. Um, and I think there's also the element of, like, especially in child protection, when we're working with somebody, we're trying to build a rapport of trust. And it makes me think, how much more closed would families be if they knew that something was being recorded? You know, I don't know that they would talk. I don't know that they'd be willing to share. And I think that that's really important. Like the element of trust is the key thing, that where abuse is happening, parents will be honest and open up if you've garnered that rapport with them. And I can say that from experience. I can remember working with a family where they'd already come through the doors. There was a child protection investigation. It was closed down. I think that the department wanted to keep it open but didn't have enough evidence. So they actually placed the family with the early intervention team, which is like it's voluntary. And so the family was willing, but it was kind of disguised because they weren't even working with the early intervention. And so it ended up coming back to me somehow. I can't remember what had happened. But during the course of my working with this family, it was child in need. We were just trying to, work with them. I think the issues were around the daughter, the father and the mother and their relationship. It presented as one of those teenage cases where parents are struggling with the teenagers, and it's presenting as though the teenagers are going off the rails. Only to find out that this young person, disclosed to me that there was an incident of physical abuse. And she went into details to what happened, and it was quite unbelievable what she was describing. Um, and I can remember like working quite honestly and openly with the father, and they were willing to work with me. They actually were attending home visits, the office visits. They were making themselves available, should I say, for the home visits. They were coming into the office. So it was actually going very well, because I have like a direct way that I work with families when I'm honest with them. And when this incident, was disclosed, I actually had to initiate a child protection investigation. And I asked the parents about it, and they were honest. They actually said, yes, this is what happened. And they corroborated everything that this young person said. And so she ended up having a child protection plan and everything like that. So I say this to say that this was a family that was deemed like hard to reach. They didn't want to work with even early intervention. But when you garner a rapport of trust with them, they will disclose and be quite open. And I think that's the basis of how we work, right, as social workers, and when we're doing direct work and stuff. So I don't know how a body cam would impair that. And I imagine that it would, because I think if I were on the receiving end, I'd be quite closed, pursed lips about myself, because you don't know how things will be taken used against you, I guess, or what you might say that you might incriminate you. And I think that's what families would think. They'd think, okay, I've got to protect myself because whatever I say may incriminate me and may put me in a position unfavorably. Because I think families have a lot of suspicions, don't they, when we're working with them, even when it's not like necessary or warranted, or where there's like, we just want to do an assessment, we just want to find out what happened and see how we can help. Their backs are raised immediately. So I don't know. And I think when I think about the reason for this being proposed, it was as a result of the little boy who was murdered by, I think it was his dad and his stepmom recently. I think they starved him to death. And somebody had shared with me also a clip of when he was saying nobody loves me. It was really harrowing. It was a really sad, it's a sad story and heartbreaking. And I think it's as a result of that, because time and time again, what we're seeing is that things are being missed. The obvious has been missed. How is a child starving to death and you don't, and you know, he's been abused by parents, and we miss that. What is happening there? And I don't know that a body cam solves that problem. I feel as though the complexity of life, the caseloads, the way in which social workers are running to and fro and working is contributing to that. Things being missed. And I know it's everybody's business to safeguard, but ultimately, as social workers, the ball kind of lands in our court, unfortunately, for the most part, especially when we are involved. It doesn't negate, you know, other professionals and their input and what they should be doing and what they have to say, but it just makes me wonder. It's a collective and supportive effort that needs to happen in protecting children, but we are the ones that have the mandate legally to proceed to go into a family's home, to present it, you know, take it down child protection route and take things further and coordinate the other professionals. And I feel as though if things are being missed over and over, a body cam's not going to help it. Like, I feel as though we have to get to the crux of what's really going on, and we have to get to understand why a thing's been missed. And I think that's maybe what isn't been done. I think what tends to happen is the serious case reviews, they will look at lessons learned and look at all the gaps and the areas in which opportunities have been missed. But I'm not sure. I don't really know how it happens. And maybe if somebody's a laddo, maybe you can comment on this. But I don't know if the why is being asked. What is the context and why is this happening? What is happening at that time? Who else has been involved or could have been involved from other agencies or even within the department itself that could have turned events? Um, and I also feel as though it's never like a one-time thing, like one time a social worker goes in, they miss it once, and that's when things go wrong. It feels to me as though there must be a catalogue of events, or indeed other professionals, you know, and I think that's something that is synonymous with, you know, children that have died or been seriously injured. So I'm just interested to know what other people think of this. Do you think social workers should have a body cam? What do you think the pros and cons are for social workers, for families? Is that really at the heart of what would that really solve the problem? Will that really solve, you know, the heart of the matter? And are we getting to the heart of the matter every time a child dies or is murdered? I would love to know what other people think. I've got my views about it, and I don't feel as though it's the answer. I've got huge issues about where's that information going. I think it would turn families off even more rather than help them, because the majority of families aren't murdering their children. And so I think there has to be a better way of being able to move forward. I don't know what people's thoughts are. I'm just really interested to know. If you've come this far, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you have to say. And while I'm on the subject of talking, tomorrow I'm going live with Kareem, the social worker mentor. We're going to be talking about leadership. And I think this is a big thing around social work practice and leadership and being able to self-advocate and all those things that I think are part and parcel of where are we in our practice, in the quality of our practice when we're going to see families, being more autonomous in the decision we're making. I can remember another memory I have when I was in a local authority. They'd headhunted me to do some auditing for them, and I did that. And one of the cases, they wanted me to see it through because it was a high-risk DV case with a baby, and the mother was 18 and the boyfriend was like in his 20s, but was a prolific family, known to the police, known to the community. And I was in a multidisciplinary meeting with the service manager of the social service department, and he wanted me to organize it so that the perpetrator could be in the mother and baby unit where she's supposed to be kept safe and we're assessing her, to be with, you know, her and the baby. And I was like, no, 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 we can't do that. That's no, we can't do that. I know she's saying that that's what she wants, but she's a victim of DV. So we can't like collude with that. That's not going to keep her safe. And he was like, oh, it has to be done. And, you know, you need to go off and do this. And I can remember just looking at him saying, no, I'm not doing that. And I picked up my papers and I walked out and I left everyone around the table just looking like like crickets. And I was just very clear what I would and wouldn't do. And I wasn't going to put my hand to that because, you know, I'd assessed it very high risk DV, where he'd actually attempted to kill her. So I was just not going to do that. I was absolutely not going to do that. So you know, we have to. I say this to say that this is about leadership skills and being autonomous, being able to self-advocate, being clear about what we will and wouldn't do. And all of that, I think, feeds into our practice and how we show up, how we present, how we take ownership and control of, you know, the questions that we're asking, the way that we conduct our interviews, the way that we are able to delegate to other professionals, you know, that are sharing the responsibility. So we are taking the load off of ourselves as social workers. There's just so many things in that. And so Karina and I are going to be talking about that tomorrow. So please do join us. We'll be there at 7:30. We'll be online. We won't be on IG because we're going to be doubling up and it won't allow us to do that. We'll see if we can do a part 2 or something on IG, or I'll upload it to the video up there. But yeah, I would love to know what your thoughts are. Angelina is saying, when you say independent social work, what does that mean? Is that agency work? No, so quite the opposite. Independent is just that. It's completely independent. I work completely for myself. I don't work for the government. I don't work for a private organization. I have my own company that I run, where I provide social work-based services. And I work predominantly 90 to 95% of my work now is solely with social workers, helping them to start and scale their own independent practice. And I did this, Angelina, just so you've got the backdrop and you understand why the context is helpful to understand what it is that working for yourself, you've got more time, you've got more freedom to do things the way you want or the way you see fit. And yeah, there's no ceiling to your income, and you've got the flexibility and freedom to be located where you want, and work how you want. So I think those are the huge things. I think the other thing for me is that independence means that I can deliver on a much deeper level and serve in a better way because I'm not depleted, I'm not tired, I'm not stressed. And so it's a very different beast. It can be a different kind of stress when you're trying to learn business and put it together, but it's like nowhere near what it's like in local authority work. So that's what it is. So thank you so much for listening to me share my thoughts. And as I said, if you're watching this even on the replay, #replay, and let me know your thoughts. I really want to get a conversation going about this. I haven't signed the petition for the reasons that I said earlier. But maybe my mind could change on that. I don't know. I'd love to hear people's views and thoughts on that. So thank you so much. Unyo is asking, what's the name of my company? The name of my company is NicoleMLouis.com. That's the website. Nicole M. Louis Limited is the name of the company. But NicoleMLouis.com is my website. Hello to everyone joining on IG. So you go there. The link is in my bio on IG, and of course on all my other platforms. It's there. You're very welcome, Angela. You've been qualified for 3 years and going agency now. That's good. And I mean, you're in a good place to start looking at independence if that was something that you were interested in. I have people that are newly qualified come to me. It's not about whether you've just qualified or not. It's about your experience and what you're going to be going into as an independent. So, for example, if prior to qualifying as a social worker, you were in early years or you were a teacher or something like that, and you worked with a particular age group like young adults, you might want to continue working with them as an independent. Your qualification, even if you just qualified now, you are well and able to start becoming an independent social worker. So yeah, I love that. So you go an agency, you won't regret it. You're very welcome, Unyo. Adefunke, I think it's also important to be engaging with policymakers so we can ensure voices are heard. Absolutely. That is a good point also. I wonder, I'm imagining that policymakers have been consulted as it pertains to this petition. And I'd be interested to know, maybe I need to reread it and think about who actually started the petition. But yeah, I think policymakers, I guess it can be helpful, but I don't know how also in touch with what happens on the front line they are. And I feel as though hearing from the voices of those that are actually on the front line doing it in the trenches day in and day out is going to be probably far more helpful. Um, yeah, I feel that in terms of making those kind of decisions. Angelina's saying, I feel the webcam is not appropriate. It will be a barrier in communication. That's my gut. That's definitely my thinking. It feels intrusive. I know that if I were in the family's position, I wouldn't want to say anything because, like, I want to know where's this information been held. You see, written words and what I write is, I know that that's going to go on a system, and I guess they've got under the Freedom of Information Act, they'll still be able to gain access, I imagine, to that footage because it's their footage. But I just feel so uncomfortable with that, and I don't know, like, how that would work. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. Your specialty, Angelina, is parenting skills. That's brilliant. So yeah, there's nothing stopping you from getting started. There's lots that you could do. LinkedIn user, hey, nice to tune in. And what a question. Building a meaningful relationship with our children, young people, and families is so integral to how we go about keeping people safe and directing our line of inquiry. A body cam can be an absolute barrier to this. Having worked in the field for over 12 years, I see more cons than pros, that there are some obvious pros when working with very complex cases of highest risk. Big shout out to those working on frontline. I second that. You couldn't have said it better. I agree with all of those things. Yeah. And I think even with complex cases, again, with the complex cases, those are the ones you really want to break the barrier down so you can get, that conversation going, that you can get the honesty going. I can remember another quick story. I can remember working with a family where it was complex because there was an issue around sexual abuse incident, potential sexual abuse incident that wasn't quite known. There were question marks and it hadn't been dealt with properly at the time. So there was no really evidence and stuff. But, it was a family that it was a complex situation. I was the social worker for a young person and her older sister and the older sister's children. So, and I can just remember with that family, it took time to build up the rapport and the engagement. But once I did it, it was like done. I had a nickname and everything. She called me up to see how I was. It was amazing, like every social worker's dream, right? When you're working in child protection. And then, because it was going down a PLO, public law outline, which is where you're going to remove potentially the children applied to the court. And I felt as though we were able to start backtracking and pulling it back from that once the rapport started going. I then had to leave the department, and I remember later finding out from a colleague who was still there that it did go down PLO, but we were actually bringing it back because of the work that we were doing and the rapport that was being built and the trust that was being built. And I felt that I would have got a disclosure if I was able to work for longer. So yeah, I think even with the complex cases with the highest risk, because a case can present, if you look at like even Victoria Climbié, that presented as a housing case, and look at what it snowballed into something so mammoth that it changed the face of social work. And so we never know what is really complex and what isn't. It really takes for, like you said, the relationship being worked on and that rapport and taking the time, and us always being curious as social workers, using a lot of therapeutic skills to engage, respecting families, being honest with them. Yeah, I think that's really what the key is. And as social workers, we have to have the time. We have to be given the time to do it. So yeah, Angelina saying teenagers don't even like it when you write during home visits. Absolutely, you don't. And I always found with even families, sometimes I'd find like the parent going like that, looking. I'm like, oh, you can have a look at what I'm writing. You can come sit next to me. Whatever I'm writing is going to go in your assessment. So there's going to be no secrets at all. So they'll sometimes take me up on that offer and sit next to me. And good luck to them if they can read my writing, because sometimes I go back to it and couldn't read it. But, I'll be scribbling away and writing down. And I found with teenagers, sometimes we would do instead of me doing a lot of writing, we're doing a lot of activity based stuff. And because I'm doing activity based, I've already done my write up and prepped it with the headings. And because it's activity based, I'm a visual thinker, so that I can remember what was happening. And I'll also let them know during this session, I might just make some notes of some things that we say, or I'll say it at the end, just so that I remember what you've told me, because the things that you've told me today during our activity is quite important. I wouldn't want to miss that. And they were usually okay with that. So that might be a way as well. Hello to everyone else joining. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. Thank you so much to everyone who's chimed in. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 7:30 if you're going to join Karine and I. And probably this will come up maybe in our conversation tomorrow too. But yeah, it was just very interesting. And I thought I'd come on and just share my thoughts and just ask what other people are thinking about it. And so yeah, that's it. That's me. Thank you so much, and speak to you soon. Bye.